Okay, so I just woke up and I see two comments in my comment section. I was really dumbfounded by this dude because he has pictures of one of those AI Facebook Jesuses. So today we're going to talk about is AI garbage or not, because this comment provides absolutely meaningless existence. This guy puts a little bit more humor. I like you more. I'll probably give you a heart if I didn't go incognito. I'm sorry. Okay, so this comment just gave me a very good reason to start watching this video. Let's see if these guys say that AI is garbage.
We should get started, right? Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Daron and Asu, for such kind words. It's really my pleasure to be here today, and I really mean it because the origin story of this book is actually right here at MIT. So let me tell you how that happened. This was way back in 2019 when I kept seeing hiring automation software. And the pitch of these AI companies to HR departments was, look, you're getting hundreds of applications, maybe 1,000 for each open position. You can't possibly manually review all of them. So use our AI software and ask your candidates to record a video of themselves speaking for like 30 seconds, not even about their job qualifications, but about their hobbies or whatever. And this is from the promotional materials of an actual company. And the pitch was that our AI will analyze that video and look at the body language, speech patterns, things like that, in order to be able to figure out their personality and their suitability for your particular job. And you can see here the software has characterized this person on multiple dimensions of personality. That's only one of 5 tabs. And on the
Now this I would agree with the comment. This is fucking garbage. This is snake oil.
top right, they have been characterized as a change agent, and their score is 8.98, 2 digits of precision. That's how you know it's AI. That's how you know it's accurate. And it didn't seem to me that there is any known way by which this could possibly work. And sure enough, now 6 years later, none of these companies have released a shred of evidence that this can actually predict someone's job performance. And in the few instances that journalists have been able to use creative methods to try to see if these techniques work or not, here's the kind of thing that they have found. So here was an investigative journalist who uploaded a video, 2 copies of a video. And in one case, they digitally added a bookshelf in the background. And they also tried changing, in another experiment, glasses versus no glasses. Radically different scores. Right? So I didn't have this evidence back then, but this is what I suspected. And coincidentally, at that time,
Yeah. And this is probably what's gonna happen with our didn't YouTube have like this age detector bullshit where like they detect your age? So like changing the background is basically the equivalent of like stopping watching Minecraft videos. So okay, if I make sure that like, okay, let me watch 10 of like these adult rated videos and then 1 Minecraft video, I can kind of like mix it in so like it doesn't catch me. It's like very, very, very interesting what kind of like game theory stuff we're gonna get out of this.
I was invited to give a talk here, and I gave a talk called How to Recognize.
Because it's already kind of happening with like some people that like have like really specific feeds and they don't want to click on anything that is not like a feed, like the feed that they've made. So when YouTube like recommends them something that like they think they would kind of enjoy the video, but they're like, no, this is not like the genre of content that I want. Let's say like I want to make like educational lecture videos, right? So I want YouTube to recommend me educational lecture videos, but then all of a sudden I get recommended a meme that I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of want to check it out, but I don't want my whole timeline to be filled with fucking memes. So what people do is fucking go into incognito and watch videos, and that's the essence of it.
Recognize AI snake oil, and I said, look, there are many kinds of AI, some things like generative AI, which wasn't called generative AI back then. Those are making rapid progress, they work well, but there are also claims being made like this. I called it an elaborate random number generator. And people seem to like that talk, so I put the slides online the next day. I thought 20 of my colleagues would look at it, but in fact the slides went viral, which I didn't know was a thing that could happen with academic work. And I realized it wasn't because I had said...
Surprisingly, a lot of academic work in AI can go viral nowadays. Well, at least between 2022 and 2024, I've seen it become kind of like, or 2025, I've seen become it like a little bit less in the past couple of months. I haven't seen like any viral academic work being like the main thing right now. Right now, currently, I think like people are just very political centered, or maybe that's just my feed. Maybe that's just like my echo chamber currently, but that's just the way it is.
Said something profound because we suspect that a lot of the AI-related claims being made are not necessarily true, but these are being made by trillion-dollar companies and supposed geniuses, so we don't feel like we necessarily have the confidence to call it out. And so when I was able to say, look, I'm a computer science professor, I study AI, I build AI, and I can tell you that some of these claims are backed by evidence, that seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And within a couple of days, I had like 30 or 40 invitations to turn that talk into an article or even a book. I really wanted to write that book, but I didn't feel ready because I knew that there was a lot of research to be done in presenting a more rigorous framework to understand when AI works and when it doesn't. And so that's when Sayash Kapoor joined me as a graduate student. So we did about 5 years of research, and the book is a summary and a synthesis of that research, some of which we've also published in the form of a series of papers papers leading up to that. So let me just take the next.
It says something about synthesis. I can quickly explain this. So in academic work, you have a thesis. Oh my god. You have a thesis in academic work, which is like some kind of foundation, some kind of like F equal MC squared. Yeah, like you have like you start with a hypothesis, right? And then it turns into a thesis, which is basically like a statement that you want to make, which is like backed by research. For example, like people who are overweight are more prone to cardiac, are more prone to diseases, for example. That is something that could be a thesis with like enough research, like which is like a claim you make, which is backed by research, right? Then you need to also address in your thesis that like there could be biases, you know, your data could be skewed, or like the sample size could be too low, like stuff like that, right? But then there's also a concept called antithesis, because which is basically a counter argument, or like a counter proposal. So the most these kind of words are being more used in like politics, for example. For example, if capitalism was the thesis, then the antithesis would be like communism or something, right? And then they merge together and create a synthesis. Yeah, synthesis. It's the new better word of it. Synthesis, which was something he was saying here. And synthesis is basically consumerism. Just consume and you won't consumerism. Just consume and you will be happy, you know? That's basically like these definitions really quickly explained.
And a synthesis of that research. And so that's when Sayash Kapoor joined me as a graduate student. So we did about 5 years of research, and the book is a summary and a synthesis of
synthesis of that research. You understand what that.
Some of which we've also published in the form of a series of papers leading up to that. So let me just take the next 15 minutes or so to give you some of the main ideas from the book. The starting point of the book is to recognize that AI is not one single technology. It's an umbrella term for a set of technologies that are only loosely related.
Okay, my first point. AI is an umbrella term for a set of loosely related technologies. So if a person really says that AI is trash, like in that fucking comment that I just got with my 2 videos, like why would you comment on a video? Let me get this shit straight. Come on. Oh my god. My whole computer is lagging. There we go. Dude. AI is garbage. So yeah, this comment, so bad.
Related to each other. This is ChatGPT. I don't need to tell you what it is. But on the other hand, technology that banks might use in order to classify someone's credit risk is also called AI. There's a reason they're both called AI. They're both forms of learning from data, but in all the ways that matter, in how the technology works, what the application is, and most importantly, how it might fail and what the consequences are, these two things couldn't be more different from each other. So the thing on the right is an example of what we call predictive AI. And what all predictive AI applications have in common is a certain logic for decision making. It's ways of making decisions about people, often very consequential decisions.
The predictive AI is probably the one that, like, when he's referring to AI as garbage, he's referring to this.
Based on
And I will not put the fries in the bag. They're out of the bag now. The cat is out of the bag.
a prediction of what they will do in the future or what will happen to them in the future. And that decision is made using machine learning based on data from past similar people. So this is used in hiring, and there the logic is who will do well at a job. It's used in lending. There the logic is who might pay back a loan or not. It's used in criminal justice, and there the logic is who might commit a crime or not commit a crime. It's used in healthcare. It's used in education, ever-expanding set of domains. And predictive AI is something we're very dubious of.
And like, if people are thinking like, oh, predictive AI in crime, that shit's like, that sounds horrible. I agree, that's really horrible. That's I think he will start talking about, no, that was another lecture. He won't start talking about this. There have been tools to predict crime which are not AI, but they're still predictive tools. They're still using these fundamental models, which is not neurons, not the, like everything that we've talked about with like these deep neural networks, but they use like game theory, for example, to predict crime, and etc. There's other stuff. if you're interested, you can just search like what tools do criminal justice use to predict criminal activity or something like that.
About, and I'll come back to that in a second. And then, of course, there's
For example, like DNA scans. You could argue that they're predictive because DNA scans have like a percentile of how likely they are to align with another suspect. So it's not like, I mean, in most cases, I would say you could like say with 100% estimation that like this DNA belongs to that DNA, but in some cases there is a percentage.
there's generative
But yeah,
AI.
and that's essentially predictive,
In addition
right?
to generating text, there's an ever-expanding variety of things that it can do. We also talk a lot in the book about social media algorithms and what are some of the societal...
Social media algorithms, which is like really funny to me because like when I learned about unsupervised learning, I realized that like, wait, YouTube algorithm is actually AI. So like when people are talking about like these algorithm recommendations, you're actually like being recommended by an AI, like by definition. Like by definition it's an AI, but everybody doesn't care. Everybody doesn't care that it's an AI. Everybody's just saying that like, oh, it's an algorithm. It's decided by an algorithm. But in reality, it's like the umbrella term of like artificial intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. It's AI, and it's just interesting. Like people don't really think about it that way. People rather just say that like, oh yeah, it's an algorithm, but in reality it's an AI. It's also an AI. It's like saying that like, I hate these algorithms that make these funny cat videos. Like you won't be wrong calling it an algorithm, but all the people are so obsessed with calling it an AI. It's just really interesting kind of like social phenomena.
Scale risks that can arise out of that as opposed to discrete risks to particular individuals. And we talk a little bit about self-driving cars and robotics, which I will come back to in a few minutes. So why are we so...
Yeah, I was thinking about like when I got introduced like to these self-driving cars ethics in like 2022-ish, 2021, I think it was like, yeah, like 3 years ago maybe, like something like that. And I thought to myself that like cars are not going to be a thing in the future. Like self-driving cars are not going to be a thing in the future because like, well, who will be responsible like if the car crashes on a pedestrian or something and wants to save the life of another person and wants to save the life of a driver or like another person on the street, right? So it's gonna like choose like basically commit criminal justice, right? And I've kind of realized that like the counter argument to that, or like the reality of that, is that like you don't even know who will like, okay, for example, this situation that like, let's say that an AI has to either crash to a pedestrian or like crash like into another car to save the driver. Or no, it can either crash, like drive straight up and crash into a car, but it will, the risk of the driver will be higher, or it can go to the right and potentially hit a pedestrian or hit an actual pedestrian, but the risk of the driver will be minimal, right? And so what should the car do, right? But I think, and whether these damages, should the driver who's driving it be paid for these kind of accidents, or like responsible for these kind of accidents, or should the company be responsible, or should the one that coded the AI algorithm be responsible for it? And I think, in my opinion, it's just a bunch of like kind of like circle jerking bullshit, because in reality, that's kind of like you don't know. You kind of have the same question whether it's a self-driving car or not, right? Let's say like somebody would like hit, I don't know, somebody would like try driving on the driveway and like without being a self-driving car, it's just kind of like, well, what should they do? You can self-driving or not, like people haven't solved that fucking question. It's not that like if you don't do self-driving you automatically like understand the ethical boundaries of everything. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Skeptical.
So basically what I'm trying to say is like self-driving cars, very big possibility, probably gonna be a thing, but like maybe like 20 more years, I would say. But I don't know, the technology can move really fast.
about predictive AI. If we look
But yeah, self-driving cars is also AI. So this guy apparently hates self-driving cars as
at
well.
the criminal justice example,
This Jesus peak, this Jesus picture might be a fucking AI as well. So
for
it's
instance,
like,
in the majority of jurisdictions today, when someone is arrested, when the judge faces a decision, there's months or maybe years until their trial, should that person spend that time in jail, or should they be free to go, or should there be an ankle monitor, or any number of options for release? That decision is made or guided by an algorithmic system, an automated decision-making system, or at least decision recommendation system. It's a statistical learning system. You could call it AI. It's something that falls under the umbrella of what we call predictive AI. And the problems with this have been known for a long time. In 2016, there was this well-known investigation by ProPublica called Machine Bias, where they did a Freedom of Information Act request. These companies are notoriously secretive. They managed to get a lot of data, and they showed that the false positive rate for the particular algorithm that they studied was twice as high for black defendants as it was for white defendants.
yeah, this is bias in AI, which is like really like an important topic, because like especially what he's saying here, right? Like so let's say you train your algorithm on the data set, but the data set is biased. For example, some ethnicities have higher predictions than other ethnicities just based on the fact that on their ethnicity. That's essentially racism, You're just picking out something else because based on, yeah.
And so we've known about these problems with racial bias, but when I looked at that study, there was one thread in it that I felt didn't get picked up nearly enough, which is that the predictive accuracy of these methods is not really that high. So if you know about how accuracy is measured in machine learning,
yeah, it's basically saying here that like the accuracy of these AI machines are actually trash, and there are better methods, predictive methods that can predict crime, which are better. And this is why I think like AI and like justice system is like criminal offense stuff like that is just completely like nonsense. And I feel like that's kind of like the problem that we're going to be seeing probably like when YouTube tries to implement their age thingy, which is kind of like, it's kind of like justice, criminal justice, but it's not. I don't know. Is it criminal to like have kids on the internet? I don't know if that's a crime nowadays, but that'd probably be a crime in like 20 more years or something with the way the world is headed.
AUC is often used area under the curve, and the best numbers that you can get here are less than 70%, and 50% is random guessing, right? So we're making decisions about someone's freedom based on something that's only slightly more accurate than the flip of a coin. And the mass majority of people who are predicted to be at high risk did not in fact go on to commit another crime. So we felt that, how is it ethical to use this for anybody, whether it's a black defendant or white defendant or anyone else? So that is one of the main points we make in the book and also in papers leading up to that it's hard to predict the future. And it's not a matter of a limitation of the technology. We just don't know who's going to commit a crime in the future. And so we shouldn't so easily accept this idea of...
So like people are saying like AGI will be a thing, which is artificial general intelligence. In my opinion, it's just a big fucking buzzword, In my opinion, it's a lot of garbage. So in here, this comment is kind of like correct in that statement when like AGI is garbage. Like he needs to replace AI with AGI because artificial general intelligence, like by the concept that like I've read, is basically like you can get to a point where AI starts to understand itself and like what it kind of like what it's thinking and feeling kind of. It starts to have a quote unquote general intelligence. That's like the essence of it, right? But I feel like the biggest like counter position or counter argument and like the whole thing that I'm kind of like proposing here is this Chinese room experiment. So a Chinese room experiment, you can read about it if you want. I'm gonna very easy, right? So a guy who doesn't know Chinese, he gets instructions to how to write Chinese. So whenever he gets something received, he gets instructions on what to do, what characters to write as like as the output, right? So the thing about it is that like this person in the room, he's just following instructions on writing Chinese characters, right? How you're supposed to write them, like which stroke to use, everything like that, But he himself does not know Chinese. He does not know the Chinese language. But in this black box, in this like big box here, you write something in Chinese and you get an output which is in Chinese back. So you would think that like, oh, this person in this room or like this whole room, he perfectly speaks Chinese, he perfectly understands Chinese. But the reality is just that he's just following instructions on how to write these characters. He doesn't understand the language at all. He cannot read Chinese at all. And I feel like this is in essence what AI really is. It's just following instructions, but it doesn't really understand like the language. It doesn't really like understand words or whatever the fuck, you know. It's just trying to imitate it as much as possible. And do I think that we will get to a point where AI can imitate so well that it becomes too believable? Like it kind of breaks the uncanny valley. Uncanny valley is another like uncanny valley. Yeah, another thing is just like uncanny valley basically is like the point where you can kind of seem that like something is off in the AI. It's not like believable enough, which can be used for horror and stuff like that as well. You can use it like in horror literature to like write stories. But it's basically that like you can apply this into here. So yeah, basically, do I think that like AI can be like believable enough, like can have enough data or like reach to a point where it's like so believable that you think it really understands you? Yeah, I would think that is possible, but it will never really understand the human language. You can only make it think that it understands the language, like what it's saying, everything like that. But the reality is that like it will always just follow instructions, like mathematics, like the way fundamental, like we have to update, like somebody has to figure out another way. Somebody has to figure out that like backpropagation is not really gonna be a thing. Like backpropagation, yeah, if you guys don't know what backpropagation is, go check my other videos. It's just like a bunch of like really specific research. But like backpropagation is basically like the godfather of AI, I would say. But yeah, somebody has to figure out another way of like updating ways or like mathematically like learn stuff. Like another way of like algorithmically learn things. For AI to be able to understand itself, because like what it is doing right now, it is not understanding. It is following instructions.
Pretty common of determining someone's fate based on a prediction of a crime they will commit in the future, as opposed to a determination of guilt. Okay, so let's talk about generative AI. There's a lot more to say about predictive AI, but maybe we can save that for the conversation and for the Q&A. Generative AI, of course.
Yeah, okay. Generative AI. Probably what this guy would probably talk about. He should say generative AI is garbage, but generative AI can be interesting as well. For example, this thing probably made by generative AI. Is it garbage? I don't fucking know. Maybe.
In addition to text, it can generate any one of a number of things. And look, there are limitations. There's a lot of hype, and I'll talk about some of the downsides in a second. But we're also very clear in the book that generative AI is useful to basically every knowledge worker, anyone who thinks for a living. And I'm sure we'll talk about the labor implications. But I also wanted to emphasize for a second that a big aspect of it is that it's a technology, a lot of the time, that's just very fun to use. And I just wanted to keep that in the conversation, because that is often easily forgotten when we're talking about these serious aspects of AI. And in my own personal use of AI, I certainly use it for my research, but quite a bit in my personal life as well. I have 2 young kids, and I often find myself using AI in ways that really enrich our relationship when I'm spending time with my kids. So the other day, for instance, I was teaching my daughter fractions, and it's hard for a kid to understand the idea of fractions. So I pulled out an AI app on my phone, and these days you can produce a little app that's created on the spot by AI based on a text description of what you want the app to do. So I asked the AI agent to create an app to visualize fractions, and it made this little game. It's a little slider, and it generates a random fraction and asks the child to try to guess where it goes on the line. And once they guess, it will check that guess, and it will.
I'll be honest, it's actually crazy that like AI can do this. I was doing research to like where the fuck can I get this app. I was kind of fascinated, but like at the same time it's just like, yeah, it's something really, really simple like this, which you can just kind of like throw away after you've done. But like if you spend like a week coding this, you're like, well, fuck, what do I like? I can't just throw it away. Like I've spent 1 week on this shit. But now if you spend like 10 minutes fucking a prompt on this, it's kind of insane. I can't lie. It's kind of actually insane. That you can do this.
We'll divide the line into many parts, visualize what 1/3 looks like, give a score, and keep score, and keep generating new fractions. So we played with this for like 15 minutes, and it really helped her. And I've done this with all kinds of things, generating random clock faces as a way to teach her to tell time, etc. And what's really cool about this is that you make this app once, you play with it. My child doesn't have a huge attention span. It's useful for 15 minutes, and then it's done. You throw it away, right? And that's amazing. You couldn't have imagined doing this a couple of years ago, because it would have taken at a minimum several hours to create an app. Okay,
Yeah.
so with that said, we are also
it
critical
is
in the
actually
book
amazing.
about the generative AI industry's irresponsible release practices. And there are, of course, many harmful consequences.
It's like a woodcutter being like, oh my god, you can just use a saw. Like, imagine using a saw. This tool is like the fucking best. You just cut trees, boom, you're done. And you don't have to use water to like transport them. You can just transport them on your tractor. Holy shit, that's amazing. You know,
Consequences of this, and as we say in the book, it's like everyone in the world has been simultaneously given the equivalent of a free buzzsaw. There are AI-generated books on Amazon by people just trying to make a buck. In some cases, it's just an annoyance. Maybe you lost 99 cents, which is often what these things are sold for because you unknowingly bought an AI-generated book. But in some cases, there are things like foraging guides for mushrooms, right, generated by AI, full of hallucinations, and so those can have life or death consequences. And there have been, in many cases, life or death consequences. People developing companionships with their AI bots, and that bot encouraging their suicidal tendencies and that sort of thing.
Yeah. About I know a lot about this AI and like suicidality, and the problem is that like, let's say you have like a prompt which is like, help me with depression, right? And like that's the first word, that's like the first prompt. And AI can go like, there's just so much content out there, or like, content, text, whatever the hell, out there, which can like answer this sentence on the internet, right? But like, oh yeah, help me with depression. Like, you just search on the internet, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, here's how to do it. Here's like a checklist, boom, 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 boom. AI kind of gives you it, right? Based on like the amalgamation of everything that is on the internet. And it's like a very generic question. A lot of people have asked it, right? But like, once you start like following it up, like, okay, well, how do I get out of bed more often? Or like, how do I not feel so worthless? How do I, stuff like that, like as you like get into this like dialogue chain. So as you like start being on your like 50th, 60th prompt of like your very specific problems, that's when AI starts quote unquote hallucinating, because that's when like you're just so specific that AI doesn't have any data to like go for. So it needs to quote unquote hallucinate, which is, by definition, it's never hallucination, because that's what AI essentially is always doing. It's always just predicting the next word. But just in some other cases, it's predicting it like how can I even, I'm just trying to explain kind of hallucination, because it is like AI is always just trying to predict the next word, right? So whether that like word is true or not, whether like that's like a fact or not a fact, it doesn't care. Like what it cares about is the highly likeliness that the next word is going to be after another word, right? And so that's when like some people argue basically that like when AI is hallucinating, it is never hallucinating. It is always trying to do what it's been told to do, which is like the highest likelihood that a word comes after another word. It just, we as humans kind of perceive something as that like, oh, you just said a wrong statement, or oh, this is not true what AI is saying. But it is never coded like that. It does never think like that. It does never think that what I'm saying is true or not true or what the hell. It just tries to give you the most meaningful response based on its predictions of the word. I don't know, what the fuck was that? NVIDIA, what the hell are you doing? Detailed by accepting send this data and you can change it. Holy shit, AI is going crazy, by the way. New chapter of War of the Adults actually arrived. I highly recommend this manga. It's so fucking good. If you guys don't know where to read manga, you can find it on Manga Plus. Just search Manga Plus. Really amazing website. Fucking crazy. This is not piracy. This is an actual like legit manga site. I highly recommend it.
And the biggest one in our mind is these AI notification apps, which you've probably heard about. It's been an epidemic in so many countries around the world, especially in high schools. And these are apps that can take a picture of a person and create a nude image of that person based on the photo that you...
Now this is some serious shit. This is some like AI is garbage tier. So see, there's nuance to this. What I'm trying to say is that there's nuance. AI can both do really good stuff and AI can both do bad stuff. Really bad stuff, And this is one of those holy fuck. Like when I heard about this, I was like,
and not only AI companies, but also policymakers being so slow to recognize this problem and doing something about it has been a real...
Yeah. I feel like policymakers should recognize this problem. 1 in 10 minors say their friends use AI to generate. Like that's insane. Now, when people are talking about protecting kids, this is what you should be talking about. Not fucking being on the fucking internet. Like, what? Like, I'm not even saying like being on the internet. I mean, like, being on YouTube. Because the problem is that YouTube is trying to like put on this high horse and saying that like, oh yeah, we're gonna make sure the content is safe, which is for good reasons. I completely agree with like their reasons of protecting the kids. Like you cannot argue against that, you know. But the problem is that like you have to like in design, in user experience design, for example, like when you're trying to like fix something, right, you have to address the fundamental need of a person. So you need to kind of understand what does the user need and build from that need, not what you think it would be the next good feature or like the next good thing, right? So you need to kind of like find the fundamental need that the user kind of needs. Like for example, let's say, why is the user using YouTube, right? Entertainment, education, you know, like maybe like reaction videos, you know, stuff like that. And so when you build software, you have to keep in mind how people are like using the software, right? I feel like that's where this kind of like filter, the censorship, quote unquote, it kind of just rubs people the wrong way because they don't understand the need of the users. Like people don't want to be like a person who's like 25-year-old don't want to be like thinking, don't want an AI algorithm thinking that they are 12 just because they watch a lot of Minecraft videos. You know, that's a very big like blow to their egos. And so like it's just like they completely kind of miss the point of like your other users. But yeah, whatever.
Real shame.
Just
Since 2019, since long before
Yeah.
the latest wave of generative AI advancements, we've had evidence this is a problem that's happening on a massive scale. So when we talk about AI and labor, one very clear thing that we need to talk about is the labor that goes into making these large-scale generative AI models.
Not only is it really expensive to make these models, to train these models, it's also really energy expensive. So it requires a lot of energy. And guys, remember, energy uses electricity. I mean, AI, yeah, energy uses electricity. AI, ChatGPT uses electricity. So whether that electricity is renewable energy or not renewable energy is the most important thing. It's not how much electricity you use. Well, in a sense, well, it's not really how much energy electricity you use if that electricity comes from renewable sources, such as hydropower, such as wind turbines, such as what was the solar panels? Yeah, solar panels, for example, right? So if you use renewable energy, then it's good for the environment. If you use coal, other like minerals, stuff like that, like oil, yeah, like fuel, oil, the same shit. But yeah, if you use resources that are not renewable, on top of that release CO2 emission, which hurts our ozone layer. Ozone layer is basically like ozone layer. This okay, I had to fucking update my drivers because some shit happened and my whole recording went poof. But I still got the recording, so we're still gonna make this reaction videos, don't worry guys. Okay, so yeah, ozone layer. Basically, yeah, CO2 emissions, basically our sun, there's a layer that's protecting us from UV lighting from our sun, which is like actual radiation, which is like very harmful, can be harmful for us, right? For us human beings. The problem is that because of these emissions, they're hurting the ozone layer, which makes it so that more of these UV rays can pass through it, and if enough UV rays pass, then our sun will basically kill us. So this is like very simply explained, and people should really take into consideration to actually like think about the future and stuff like that. Because you might say, well, this shit ain't gonna happen like another 100 years or 200 years, who cares, you know, I'm not gonna be alive by the time that happens. Well, the problem is your kids are gonna be alive and your grandkids, and if you don't want kids, well, good luck, bro. I mean, not good luck, but well done, bro. You won the game, bro. You won the game. But yeah, I mean, if you do believe in reincarnation, but then you should still take care of the world, because you'll be reincarnated in the future into another human being. Boom, boom, haha, esoteric knowledge. Yeah, whatever.
Models. Yes, they're trained on data from the internet, but they're also post-trained, as it's called, based on human interaction. And there is a lot of human annotation work that is necessary to essentially clean the training data, if you will, that goes into making these models. And this work is
cleaning training data. That's another topic I want to talk about. It's actually really important to clean the training data, and it's kind of insane how many companies have kind of emerged just by cleaning the data that like the people have gathered from the internet. Because there's like a data set which is like very well known. I think it was like tier list, like an AI tier list on Hugging Face. Chatbot Arena. There's like a tier list for AI models, right? You know, like, so you can see like Gemini is doing really, really good recently, and then their ChatGPT 3.0 model is doing really, really good. Fuck this fucking privacy bullshit. I hate this shit. But yeah,
offshore
you
to
get it.
developing countries. It's trauma-inducing work because day in and day out, you have to look at videos of beheadings or racist diatribes or whatever, and make sure that doesn't get into the input.
Yeah, and this is just not only like input output of AI. This has been happening with like Facebook moderation back in 2016, where like people had to like not even like they still probably need, but there's probably nowadays just way more AI automated. Like AI is just doing the automation rather than other people. But yeah, in like 2016, like people had to like look at a fucking very, very fucked up pictures of like that people are posting on Facebook because to take them down. You know, when there's like a picture being reported, somebody has to look at it and verify that it's like an actual bad picture. The problem is that like when like there's so much fucked up shit that like people are just like, what the fuck,
AI. And the working conditions are so precarious that a lot of these AI companies have often turned to people who don't have a lot of options.
Yeah, the people who are actually feedbacking ChatGPT on how to speak are actually people in Africa. It's crazy because it's the cheapest option, And so that's why you actually notice that in ChatGPT outputs, they use the word yeah. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it was yeah. Maybe I might be wrong. It might be another word, but it's like this like African slang word basically, right? That is like has like an African origin in the literature, no, in the language, or linguistics, in the linguistics. But it has like it has been so much more popular now to use this word because this word is so much more like used now in like text and academic work, for example, because AI outputs it, because there's a higher tendency to output this word, and
in the labor market, like refugees or people in countries experiencing hyperinflation or prison labor and so forth. So something is clearly wrong here, and we need new labor rights for this. So having been critical of companies, I do want to say that it's not about putting all of the blame on the companies. There's a lot of personal agency that all of us need to exercise, and we need to use judgment in knowing when the use of AI is even appropriate, which is separate from the issue of whether it works or not. A good example of this comes from the recent election. This example is not in our book because it's pretty recent, but there was a candidate in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, who wanted the mayor to be an AI chatbot. And he said that if he were elected, all the decisions would be made using this chatbot. And as far as I can tell, it was only ChatGPT behind the scenes, but he called it
really
VIC for Virtual Integrated Citizen, which certainly sounds more sophisticated.
I mean, maybe like I don't know. That sounded really crazy the first time I heard it. Now that I've become kind of desensitized to hearing this, I'm kind of like maybe. But the first time I heard about it, I was like, hell, fucking no, this shit is retarded,
And I learned about this because the Washington Post called me to ask, what are the risks of having an AI mayor? I was very confused by that question. I kind of blurted out, what do you mean risks of having an AI mayor? It's like asking, what are the risks of replacing a car with a cardboard cutout of a car? I mean, sure, it looks like a car, but the risk is that you don't have a car anymore. I regretted it as soon as I said it. It was a little bit snarky, but the Post printed it anyway. So let me explain what I mean. So his point was that politics is very messy, inefficient, a lot of fighting, etc. Let's make it more efficient with chatbots. But that completely misses the point. The reason politics is messy is that that's the forum we've chosen for resolving our deepest disputes. And to try to automate that is to miss the very point.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's the whole point of politics is being like in opposition with each other. That's how you move discourse. That's like that's why like I watched this like video of a guy basically proposing this like liberalistic and people who are fascist, let's just say that because we cannot use the other word, right? And like when you have like this sliding window that which is like what is acceptable, and like if you listen more to them, they move the sliding window, and if you listen more to the people on the left, they move the sliding window, like the topics that are acceptable to talk about. I don't know if you guys can even saw that explanation. I'll be honest, maybe you guys didn't, but who cares? But yeah, basically there's like a sliding window. One goes to the left, one goes to the right, of like the appropriate political topics to talk about during a current time, right? And the thing about it is that like this window kind of moves, right? And people on the liberal are nowadays, or like I don't know if this is all the people. Like I have no fucking clue about like liberalism or like any of that. Like I'm not well versed in politics, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But people on the like extremist, I guess, or something like that, on the liberal side are now saying that like we cannot let people on the right who are like, I don't know, who are hurting or like has the potential of demolishing democracy. We cannot let that flourish, so we have to censor their talking, so we cannot let them talk. We do not need to give them a voice, which is crazy. It's like you have become what you hated the most, Anakin, you know, type beat, where like libertarians are less tolerant to people who have opposing ideas of them. That's essentially like, I was like, what the hell?
So this is more or less one of the last things I want to say. I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. But this is kind of the framework we use in the book for thinking about how we should look at any particular AI application. It's a two-dimensional figure. On one dimension, you have how well does it work? Does it work as claimed? Or is it overhyped? Or does it not work at all? And is it a kind of snake oil?
Oh, no,
but on the
wait.
other dimension, we have the fact that
we'll talk about the justice
system.
system.
AI can be harmful because it doesn't work as claimed and it's snake oil, or it can actually be harmful because it works well and it works exactly as claimed. So let me give you examples of each of those kinds of things. So let's start with the top right here. I mentioned those video interviews. I mentioned criminal risk prediction. Cheating detection is, of course, when professors suspect that students are using AI, they might turn to...
Yeah, the problem with cheating detection is that it doesn't fucking work. It just doesn't. Like, you think you have like these, figure out if this text is AI generated. The reality of it, it's you cannot. You fucking cannot. The problem about it is that like AI is generating its code it's generating its text based off what people are typing in the internet, right? So the problem about it is that like for the first things first, it's already taking like somebody else's like typing, like the most generic or like specific, like the most like all round like typing mannerisms that like you have on the internet, like not on the internet, but like in literature, for example. Let's say like, oh, write me a book, you know, and then it's gonna write it in a style that all of the books are fucking written because it has read all the books, you know, like it's a data set, it's all of the books, right? So it's gonna write in that style of all of these books. And if you like care about like, oh, well, I don't want this book writing style, or like there's too many M dashes or apostrophes, you know, stuff like that. Because like, so like to figure out something is AI, for example, it's usually using like a very long M dash, which is like you cannot make it on the keyboard unless like you use unless you use the numpad. You have to like use alt numpad keyboards, and then you do the M dash or something like that. But yeah, and then there's also like sometimes instead of an apostrophe like this, it uses like a weird ass apostrophe and something not like that. What the fuck, dude? Guys, I have found the YouTube. Dude, that's some crazy. Like if I do hashtag, then oh my god. No, guys, I like there's some crazy shit on YouTube. I'll be honest. There's a rabbit holes you can probably find, but holy fuck, I didn't even know that was a thing. What the fuck? So what if I keep doing it? Peppa Pig. Who in their right mind would want to do this? What the fuck? What the? Okay, no, I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, you guys understand. AI cheating detection, it fucking, because you're using AI to detect AI, which is like essentially it's just like, yeah, it's
to these cheating detection tools, but they just don't work, at least as of today, and they're more likely to flag non-native English speakers. And I've heard so many horror stories of students being falsely accused. As things stand today, that very much feels like snake oil to me. But on the bottom right, though,
yeah, I mean, he has like a very like optimistic that maybe in the future it will be better, and I do think like maybe in the future the teaching detections will probably be better, but in their current form I don't think they work. I agree with that statement, because the problem about it is that like you can make, because let's say you say that there's more unpredictability in human writing. You know, a human doesn't write as structured as AI does. Well, the problem is that like that's how a good writer is supposed to write a structured sentence. So like good writing, you get basically punished for writing a good sentence because you have like a team sentence at the beginning. You present your research, you present who invented this research, maybe some counter arguments, a small little sentence on like why it's what this means for the thesis or like the hypothesis or something like that, and like a gateway or like a bridge sentence into another sentence, right? Like a bridge sentence into the next apostrophe. That's like good writing. The thing about it is like AI has like also like learned that that's good writing, and so it like writes good like that. And if you say that like, oh well let's punish people who write that way, it's like what the fuck. And at the same time it's just like if you write poorly, you can make an AI, you can just ask AI, please write in my style, in my writing style, you know, like you just like put a PDF document of like your writing style of like whatever the hell, and just say that like, oh yeah, please write it in this style that I've written it in, and boom, like fucking, you know, it's just
are things like mass surveillance using facial recognition. Historically, facial recognition hasn't worked that well, but now it works really, really well, and that in fact is part of the reason that it's harmful if it's used without the right guardrails and civil liberties and so forth. And then we talk about content moderation, which
yeah, facial recognition has become really, really well. Really, really good in the past couple of years. I can't lie.
We explain in what way it's overhyped. But basically, our interest in the book...
there's a website called How Beautiful Am I? Pretty Scale? Oh. How Normal Am I EU? Yeah. Guys, I recommend this website. This website is really cool. It's really like food for thought. Food for thought on like what AI facial recognition can do.
Book is everything except the bottom left. Those are applications, simple things, for instance, like autocomplete that kind of fade into the background and really work well. You know, our goal is to have an intervention so we can equip people to push back against AI that is problematic. You wouldn't want to read a book that is 300 pages on the virtues of autocomplete. And I say that because I think that bottom left corner is very important. There's more in that corner than we might suspect. And to explain that, let me give you a funny definition of what AI is. And this definition says, AI is whatever hasn't been done yet. AI is whatever hasn't been done yet. So what does that mean? What it means is that when a technology is new, when its effects are double-edged, when it doesn't work that well, that's when we're more likely to call it AI. When it starts working well, it's reliable, it kind of fades into the background. We take it for granted. We don't call it AI anymore. And this has happened over and over with many kinds of automation. So, you know, Roomba and other robotic vacuum cleaners. I mentioned autocomplete.
Yes. Like the YouTube algorithm, it's an AI, but people don't care. People have like, oh yeah, well, it's fucking more. Like people just ingrain that into them. They don't care that like a YouTube algorithm is AI. Because saying AI is garbage, your platform that you're on is garbage.
Handwriting recognition, speech recognition, which I'm sure many of us use on a daily basis to transcribe. Even spell check was at one point a cutting edge example of AI. So this is the kind of AI we want more of. We want technology that's reliable, that does one thing, does it well, and kind of fades into the background. So that's something that we hope that our critical approach can nudge the industry towards. And our prediction is, and our kind of optimistic prediction about AI, is that one day, much of what we call AI today will fade into the background. But certainly not all of it. So for instance, not criminal risk scoring, there are intrinsic normative questions that won't go away with making the technology more reliable. But with self-driving cars, although they are in the news today often for the wrong reasons because of accidents and so forth, it is going to be the case that those are solvable engineering problems. There's already been dramatic progress in solving them.
Yeah,
and one day,
I mean, I agree. This is like what I thought about back to my like self-driving cars, which is like I was really critical about the ethical implications of self-driving cars at the beginning when I heard about self-driving cars and their ethical implications. But like once you kind of understand like the ethics behind it, you kind of start to understand that like people haven't solved these ethics neither for a robot, neither for a real human being. Like people will just like there's just no, because the problem is that like you're doing it in the moment, right? When you're driving, like okay, should you swing to the left? Should you swing to the right? Well, that's the choice of the person. Should they be, yeah, whatever. I feel like I'm just a little bit too I forget my points, my talking points for these self-driving cars.
These things are going to be widely used. They're
don't
going to
fucking
become
remember
part of our
exactly
physical
what I'm supposed to
infrastructure.
be saying
We'll take them
here.
for granted. And the word car one day will just mean self-driving car. Right, and we're going to need a new name for what we call cars today, like maybe manual car or something. And there are some downsides there. We have to think about the labor implications of gig workers and so forth. But ultimately, it will have been a good thing because there are 1 million deaths from auto accidents every year. So again, that's our vision for a positive kind of AI. So broadly speaking, in terms of what I think we need.
I mean, the problem is it can be abused. Like if an AI is made to stop accidents, right? What happens if you have like a teenager running right in front of a car and thinking like, "Oh, I'm invincible. The car won't hurt me." You know that could probably happen. Like imagine that. Like I don't fucking know that. You know, but like should they be like, should I keep it punished if they do that? Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what we have criminal justice system for. But yeah, it's just kind of like interesting what kind of social phenomena can kind of maybe form out of like having self-driving cars. I think that it is it's something we haven't really thought about that much yet, and I think like in the future, if people are going to be implementing self-driving cars, like on an actual like mass scale, because like let's say there are self-driving cars, right? You might say, well, there are self-driving cars right now, like currently, like on the highways, like it's proven to be very effective, like self-driving on the highways, right? But I'm talking about like on a massive scale, trying to like it being like more popular than normal cars, right? So like if that would be the case, you would kind of need to start considering that, like, okay, what could be the implications of like that? Because like imagine if somebody would just place a cone in the middle of the road and like a normal person would be like, okay, we stop, and AI would be like, okay, we stop. Actually, the further I take this thought, the more I'm like, yeah, this is a very bad thought. Because I won't be honest, like there shouldn't be any social implications. Should there be any social implications for like self-driving cars? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm like overthinking it. I think I'm overthinking it. Yeah. But maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I genuinely, I don't know. It's like, I feel like my brain is trying to find some reason to kind of bash on self-driving cars. Like there must be something. There must be a hook. I feel like that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to self-driving cars. Is like, there has to be a hook. It cannot be like this perfect. There has to be something like limiting the technology. But I don't know, maybe we'll figure it out, maybe we'll solve it, or we as a humanity, like the engineers, maybe the engineers will solve it. But yeah,
Need to change, in terms of shaping AI for the better. There are many different recommendations in the book, but I would cluster them into 3 big areas. One is we need to know which applications are just inherently harmful or overhyped, and we probably should not even deploy.
Yes.
And secondly,
yes, this is the problem. This is your AI snake oil. This is your predicting people's how well they do on their job based on their photos type beat. It's like, what the hell?
even when it does make sense to deploy an AI application, there are often so many risks, and we need guardrails for those. And the third one is more structural. It's really about the fact that AI is exacerbating some of the inherent capitalistic inequalities that we see in our society. So how do we limit companies' power and redistribute AI benefits? Let me take one last.
That's the problem I have with AI currently, is that like a lot of AI, like I feel like AI should be like human right almost. Not like the top of the human rights, but like at the bottom, like where like internet is. Like internet should also be like a human right, because like I don't know, for me, is internet a human right? There's like something like human rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There was like not the human right. There was something else. There was what are there 30 human rights? Oh my god. Yeah, there was like I don't fucking. Okay, there was a website that like very clearly, I forgot the website, guys. I'm sorry. I don't remember all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I think like the companies nowadays, they have like these subscription plans, and everything like that, and just like, oh yeah, and it's a good thing, like, oh, you have to like let them get money to sustain their development. Bro, Google has YouTube for free and nobody bats an eye. But I mean, Google has ads, you can't really, should you start putting ads in AI? That would be kind of crazy, I can't lie. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's really weird.
Last minute to tell you about a paper that we released just a couple of days ago, which is a follow-up to AI snake oil. AI snake oil looks at what's going wrong with AI today and how do we fix it. Our new paper is called AI as Normal Technology, and it's kind of a vision for AI over the next maybe 20 years. It's taking a longer-term look, and it's trying to give a framework for thinking about AI that's an alternative to the major narratives that we have today. There are 3 major narratives about AI today. The first one is that it's superintelligence that will usher in a utopia. The second one is closely related. It's a superintelligence, but it will doom us rather than benefit us. And the third one is that we should be very skeptical about AI. It's just a fad. It's so overhyped. It's going to pass very soon. And our
yeah, the third one. This guy is breeding the third one.
Our approach in AI snake oil is a middle ground. It doesn't fit into one of these narratives, but these 3 narratives are so compelling that we're.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's like he just said. It fits in. It's like a middle ground. It doesn't fit into these 3 narratives, and I kind of agree. Like my thought about AI. It's kind of like. It's kind of like in the same ballpark here, where it's like it's cautiously optimistic. It's not gonna be this doom of utopia. It's not gonna lead, dystopia, doom into dystopia, or like lead us into this like utopia world. It's none of that. Like AI is not gonna like doom or harm, like make society collapse or blossom our society. It's just a technology that is a little bit overhyped. Some for the right reasons, some for the wrong reasons.
Often thought of as saying that AI is a fad that's soon going to pass. That's not what we're saying, but especially in the new paper, we're making that very concrete. We're giving a 4th alternative way to think about AI, and this is closely modeled on what we know from past technological revolutions, like the Industrial Revolution, like electricity, like the internet. We do think AI is going to have transformative effects, but we think they're going to unfold over a period of many decades, as opposed to suddenly it's going to have both good and bad effects.
Yes.
We think a lot of.
Like I agree with this. This is what I feel like. Maybe something that I've said like in the past couple of sentences may have people may have interpreted as like I'm saying that AI is something that's going to pass. I do not agree with that statement as well. I don't think AI is going to pass. I think AI is here to stay. It will have an impact, but that impact won't be immediate. That's also true.
The superintelligence and catastrophic risks have been greatly exaggerated. We think that we're already in a good place to know how to address some of those risks if they do come up. And on the basis of all,
like we're really good. We already are kind of like working on XAI, which is like explainable AI. And there's 2 ways to you do explainable AI. You can either explain it in the model itself, like as you're doing the inference, or you can make it something like on top of the model. So like after you finish the inference, after you've finished generating your text prompt, and AI will explain why it came to that conclusion to generate it, which is like in like 10 years, 20 years, I would say I'm very interested in the direction that AI is going to go.
All of this, we have some policy ideas for steering and shaping AI in a more positive direction. So I'll stop here, and I really look forward to the conversation. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't know if we're gonna watch the Yap Fest.
These are fancy chairs.
Yeah. I want to start from the predictive AI part. So I think that was one of the items in the book that I thought was super interesting and super revealing. But I want to dig a little bit deeper and understand where the more foundational concerns about predictive AI are coming from. And I guess as an economist, perhaps one place one could start is by distinguishing one-person decision problems or one-person interaction problems versus social problems in which there's an interaction. So if you, for example, build an AI tool for a runner to decide when, say, for example, she's going to need more liquids or when she's had enough with the running or something like that, that's a sort of a predictive tool, but it doesn't have this social interaction aspect. It still has the human agency. So you might say, well, human agency means we can never predict anything. But I think I'm not sure whether you want to go there, or is it more in these game theoretic situations where what I do will depend on what others will do. There are these complex interactions that we don't understand, and I guess if it's the latter, is there a way to, for example, cut some of the more complex things into smaller pieces and make some progress? Like, for example, I don't see Sendel here, but Sendel's very interesting work on bail. Could we? That's a social problem, but could we reduce it with the right guardrails to like a decision problem for a judge? my guess is it's not going to be easy, but perhaps. So that's
Yeah, thank you. That's a fantastic question. And yes, Sendil and others have a great paper, Prediction Policy Problems, that lays out their vision for how to use what we call predictive AI for various things, such as bail and other things. And I was mentioning that our work is based on some papers we've written. The main one on this particular question is called Against Predictive Optimization, which is sort of intended as a counterpoint specifically to the Prediction Policy Problems paper. And to your point, exactly, that if we were using AI to predict for a runner, when they might need fluids or whatever, certainly doesn't raise these concerns at all. Yes, it is something about the social nature of it. Specifically, it's about the fact that an entity with power is exercising that power over an individual, right? And there, I think we need to go beyond concerns of accuracy and economic efficiency and so forth, and ask from a philosophical perspective, when is this exercise of power justified? So in our paper, we actually did engage with philosophers a little bit.
Basically what he is saying here is that when AI has power over another human being's life, for example, like imprisonment, like choosing how much jail sentence you have, or job applications even for that matter, you should really what he's saying here, read the literature and
read that literature and tried to connect it with these more concrete AI questions. So while we do say that the accuracy is very poor, how can we do this when it's only slightly better than the flip of a coin? Even if the accuracy was much better, at a fundamental normative level, we do think, again, don't want to go into too much detail for reasons we talk about in the paper, when it's this, when the relationship is that of exercising power over someone, there are more considerations that come into play.
Yeah, they're basically saying, we need to think about this more clearly. That's the simplest way.
I think that's a very important point that, many of these things, I think the statement that technology is never neutral, that's now part of the folklore. But it's not that it's neutral. New technologies really change the power balance, especially with large corporations, which is, I guess, is a good segue to my second question, which is generative AI. So I thought the generative AI discussion was very interesting as well. So sort of one take, which I think is sort of close to my view, is, there are a lot of very exciting capabilities of generative AI, but there aren't that many applications. And I think I don't see pretty much any applications except in very few areas like programming subroutines, etc., which is really going to change yet the production structure.
Yeah, but we're talking about vibe physics. Is vibe physics going to change the production structure of physics? Not really. Is AI going to change the production structure of how we do physics? No, not really. But in terms of programming, yeah, I do agree that there's a lot of things you can do in programming, because there's the thing about programming is that how many memes have you heard about I just went into Stack Overflow, copied some code, and boom, it worked. It's just that. That's kind of that. That's what programming is, man. It's you using the internet to find a solution as well. If you would try to come up with your own what do you call it, graphics emulator to emulate the 3D moving graphics, you'll be spending a fucking year or something just to make 3D graphics work in your game, while you could just go into the internet, look at past research, or look at people who have implemented these kind of things and realize, oh yeah, that's how it works, and just go from their model. That's the thing about it. It's just not reinventing the wheel is the most kind of important thing in programming, where you could from the bare bones start coding in assembly and do everything in assembly, but that's the whole reason why we have Python and other high-level programming languages, to not needing to code with transistors or assembly, to actually make it more functional and focus on actually developing software rather than what's gonna happen when a boolean triggers twice in a row or something like that. It's just,
I think that's not exactly the way you put it, but I think it's similar to. So is there a fundamental reason for that, or is this just a passing phase?
Yeah, so I completely agree with you that that's the state of things right now. Where we might disagree maybe a little bit is that I'm not so sure it's fundamental. I think it can change in the future, and it's already changing now. And let me explain what I mean, and this is a big part of what we get into in the AI as normal technology paper. When ChatGPT came out, the fact that it was so general purpose, that you could make it do different tasks simply by changing the prompt, really misled, I think, not just a lot of users, but also the companies themselves, from talking to many developers in the AI industry, into thinking that this was a new paradigm of software development, that this had obviated the need for building software to do specific things for you, software in the legal sector or software for...
I actually, holy shit, this guy is so on point. Because this makes so much sense on why the AI slop video was a thing. Or the vibe physics that we reacted to yesterday, why... Because that narrative that he's kind of explaining, I didn't actually think it from that perspective, but it makes so much sense why people are so pissed about software development or vibe vibe coding then, because if you take it from this point that he's talking about right now.
This had obviated from talking to many developers in the AI industry into thinking that this was a new paradigm of software development. That this had obviated the need for building, software to do specific things for you, software in the legal sector or software for helping you with your writing or whatever it is. Then you can use these general purpose models. And going forward, all that was going to be needed is prompting. And that approach was tried for a year.
Yeah, all that going to be needed is prompting, and which is like something that came out like 7 months ago, which was like this term called vibe coding. Like all you need to do is just prompt. And the reality of vibe coding is that like it's I said it about in my physics vibe physics React video as well, is that like it's a spectrum. You don't fully vibe code, but you don't like fully do it without AI. You can integrate AI, but like not let it take the wheel. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Or two, and has miserably failed. And we analyze in our newsletter, for instance, we have a AI snake oil newsletter where we use the foundational approach in the book to analyze ongoing developments, why many products that were simple wrappers around large language models and tried to actually get them to do useful things in the real world instead of simply spitting out text, those have been pretty bad failures. So there was a device called the Rabbit. Do folks remember this? And then there was a Marcus Brownlee review saying it was the worst thing it ever reviewed, and there was a little bit of a scandal about that and so forth. So that is exactly an example of what you pointed out, which is that the capability is there. These large language model-based agents are capable of doing very interesting things, like navigating a website, doing shopping for you. But the thing is, because they haven't developed products around them and gotten the reliability rate up from, let's say, like 80% where it is now, all the way to 99.99%, which is something we expect any software product to have, these are pretty much dead on arrival. People are complaining that it ordered their product to the wrong address.
Yes, that's so true. That I agree. It's
right. Would you use a product a second time if it did that? So that's an example of where companies have dropped the ball in translating those capabilities into products. They are changing their approach now. I think there's a very good chance that we're going to see a mushrooming of products in the few years coming.
Yeah, I agree. I think like maybe AI products are going to be much better in like 2030s, and that's back to their like kind of like thesis that they were talking about, which is like it's not going to be like AI is not something that like, oh boom, it came crashing in, we're gonna like it's gonna revolutionize the world, boom, like this. Like the thing about it is just like that's not gonna happen. That's just not gonna happen. Sadly, it's just not gonna. Not that's not gonna happen. That didn't happen. AI didn't like automatically just like fucking cut out half of the workforce. It for sure made a lot of protests about people like working conditions, work culture, like all of this kind of stuff, and like how AI is going to be integrated into that, like for example with AI voice actors and stuff like that. And I don't know if you can still do this, but like for example AI as like translation, I'm pretty sure like people on Fiverr or like the what do you call these freelancers, like translation freelancers, they basically lost their job, or like they should like pivot to something else, because like that like translation freelancing nowadays is just like a lot of people that work in translation, well when it comes to like Asian Chinese, for example, Chinese translation, right, who used to have like a lot of Chinese customers being like, oh yeah, can you please translate this? And they're now using AI. They now don't care, Nowadays it's like it's more important to proofread something. So like you read a text that has been translated by an AI or anybody who the hell cares, but making sure that the translation is correct, like making sure that like it flows and making sure that like you can understand what it's saying. That's like the most, like proofreading is more important than translating nowadays. That's just the reality of it, kind of.
I definitely didn't mean to suggest that it was fundamental, but I think it's. I'm also not convinced it's going to go away very quickly. I guess one reason, which is different from the ones that you've articulated, so let me try that on you, is, every job is a very complex bundle of tasks, and the way that we've done automation in the past is that we've done careful or semi-careful division of labor so that certain tasks can be separated, other complementary tasks can be performed by humans, or organizations can be changed. It requires a lot of specific knowledge for the occupation, for the industry, a lot of tacit knowledge. And I think the approach of the leading AI companies has been, well, we're going to go to AGI or very close to AGI, everything can be done, so we don't need any of this tacit knowledge, so we're just going to throw in these foundation models and they're going to do it. And I think that's
what he's talking about here, which is like I don't really agree with the company statements that like, oh yeah, an AI would just be able to do anything. I think you're gonna have to have like in the future we're gonna have more specific tailored AI for like doing specific tasks. At least that's how I would approach it.
That's never going to work, because even with the very fast advances in foundation model, a foundation model is not going to be able to do everything that even like an auditor does. And when you go to an educator or to a health professional, I think it's very unlikely. So you really need this tacit, very specific domain knowledge. So I don't see that path being followed yet.
100% agree. I think this is another area where
I
AI
agree.
developers really fooled themselves. I think there was misleading intuition from the last few years of rapid AI progress, where by scaling up these models and by training them on bigger and bigger chunks of the internet, there were more and more emergent capabilities. That approach has run out. And not only because they're already
Yeah. Yeah, they'll already used all the training data, and like that's the thing about this. That like I feel like AI right now is like and there will probably be in the future another AI winter. For people that do not know what AI winter is, it's basically like a halt in AI research. And AI has already had multiple AI winters. But I do see myself that like in the future we're gonna get another AI winter where there will be like basically a halt of research where like people have kind of like either they move on with the research or like they figure out that like, oh yeah, we cannot push this technology any further, right? And I feel like that's like currently with the hype about like quantum mechanics, you know, and like quantum computing and stuff like that. And I've like looked into that, and I also think that like I'm not a quantum scientist, just gonna state it right out of the way, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I do not know everything about quantum physics at all. I've just kind of like from an outsider perspective looking in, like wanting to understand this type of stuff. Okay, now that you have like that disclaimer, but yeah, from what I've like researched basically, I think it's the problem is basically that like every time well, how does quantum computing work? I have to explain that wholly. I mean, explaining that in layman terms is actually the biggest challenge to understand. I feel like you can understand it yourself. But basically saying to like it's all about like the bits that you get. So instead of like being like a 0 and a 1, right? It has many different. It can do parallels. You know, it can do many other like it can be. Yeah, it kind of breaks the fundamental of having like an on and off, like an electricity, for example. In an electricity, you have like either a 0 or 1, right? In quantum computing, you can go beyond that. The problem is that like to know which state you're in, it's very probabilistic. It's really like it's random, like which state you get when you observe the quantum. I see. I'm lacking the definition of this because I don't know the definition of like the qubit. I guess yeah. When you observe the qubit, I might be wrong on the definition of things here. Please bear with me. But what I'm just trying to say is that like there are some fundamental concepts in quantum physics that are like need to be solved, and it's not really a question of oh will they be able to solve it or not. I think it's just fundamentally quantum computers will not replace normal computers. It's not a one-to-one upgrade. It will never be a one-to-one upgrade. Quantum computers will accelerate us at computing something really, really specific, like where they could really, really shine. You know, so there are some applications where quantum computing could work really, really well. And there are some applications, I think in video games, I don't think quantum computing is going to be a good thing in video games, I'm going to be honest. So like, I think it's more like for simulating stuff, like, yeah, simulating real physics, I'm going to be honest. I feel like that's one of the biggest strengths of quantum computing. But it's also like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like a lot of people think that like quantum computing is going to be like, oh my god, this like new thing is going to change everything. It's going to change the world. And no, that's hype. That's overhyped kind of in my opinion, the way I see it, like from what I've read about like researchers talking about this and stuff like that.
already training on all of the data they can get their hands on, but also because the new things that are left for these models to learn are exactly things like tacit knowledge. There is a way to learn tacit knowledge, but it is not in the passive way that models are being trained right now. It is by actually deploying models or AI systems, even relatively unreliable AI systems, in small settings in different domains on a sector-by-sector basis, not in a general purpose way, and learning from those interactions with real users and real domain experts.
Oh my... That's so smart. I'm not gonna lie. Like what he's like referencing here, that like how to make AI learn tacit knowledge. I think that's such a interesting and good approach of doing it. I completely agree with his statement.
This is the kind of positive feedback loop that we've had, for instance, with self-driving cars. The reason that it took about 2 decades from the first demonstrations of successful self-driving to getting them to a place where they're able to autonomously ferry people on the roads right now is that you have to slowly scale up. You drive 1,000 miles and then you collect data that allows you to improve your reliability. Now it's reliable enough to drive 10,000 miles.
Yes. And you run simulations as well. So you have simulating driving, which is like photorealistic. You need to make sure that it's photorealistic. as well. And yeah, it's really crazy. Like if you've seen these self-driving car simulations, like how photorealistic they are, is really cool. MIT has like there's like a lecture on AI, MIT, that he kind of like shows the simulation of a self-driving car, but
and then you go to
that's
100,000.
kind of crazy.
That's a very slow process. We predict that we're going to see that kind of slow feedback loop going forward on a sector-by-sector basis.
Okay, well, I think that's a segue for the next question, which I wasn't sure whether I was going to ask, because you wisely stay away from AGI a lot in the book. But
I wisely stay away from AGI in my day-to-day life as well. AGI is, as this comment is saying, garbage. Not AI, AGI is garbage.
I mean, I guess here is the sort of the argument that many people have in their minds, which makes something like AGI a default position. You know, at the end, the human mind is a computer. Whatever substrates it uses, it's a computing machine of sorts. Well, we're going to build better and better computing machines, so therefore we'll go to AGI.
Guys, I've talked about this before, haven't I? Haven't I? I think I have, haven't I? I've talked about this before, haven't I?
So I think then I think this is a sort of a bait and switch. Then it rather puts anybody that says, well, show me the money in a defensive position. But if we were in that defensive position, either we would have to disagree with that scenario, or we would have to say, well, here are the bottlenecks that you haven't taken into account. And I'd be curious to know whether you would completely avoid being put in that position, or you have something to say about the presumption or the bottlenecks.
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to talk about it. These are certainly some of our more controversial views, at least within the tech community.
Not here.
So let me say two things to this. One, this has been consistently predicted throughout the history of AI for more than 70 years. When they first made these what are called universal computers, we just call them computers now, but back then they were called universal computers because it was a very new concept that you could build one piece of hardware to do any task by programming it appropriately, as opposed to building special purpose hardware for each particular task. The excitement around that was exactly similar to the excitement around general purpose generative AI models today. They thought, we've done the hard part, the hardware, it's right there in the name. And now we just need to build the software to emulate the human mind. And they thought that was only a couple of years away. The pioneering 1956 Dartmouth conference, they proposed a quote-unquote 2-month, 10-man effort to make very substantial progress towards AGI, which was just called AI back then, right? So over and over, while it might be possible in principle that we can have software do all the things the human mind does, AI developers have been so off in knowing how much the gap is between where things currently are and where we need to be. So that's one thing. The second thing, I know we're running out of time, so let me just very quickly say, is we talk about this in the book in chapter 5.
Yeah, so basically, his first statement was that like people are just mispredicting of where we are and where we are headed, which means that like people thought we were gonna have like universal computers like finished with like, because we've done the hardware, we just need to do software. Basically, to summarize kind of what he's saying here is that like people kind of like mispredicted how long it would take to reach that point. And I feel like that's the same with AI. People are kind of mispredicting how long it would take for AI to kind of like be an universal thing. And democratic, holy shit, democratic, holy, yeah, the word democratic, like people love democracy, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not opposing democracy right now. I'm not stating that. It's just that like it's like the new Squid Game season, where at the end people are like, let's do this democratically, let's vote out who dies democratically. And that's kind of like the biggest, it shows kind of like the biggest issue with the democracy. If the majority of the people are like discriminating or like racist, like they want to like kill a specific ethnic group, for example, or something like that, then democracy will allow that. Democracy will allow that kind of behavior, because by the vote of the majority, people have decided that, yeah. And some people are kind of like fighting that idea and like are saying like, well, let's censor, or like let's not give people a vote if they have way too radical views. But then you start reaching this kind of gray zone of like, well, what do you define as radical views? Like, where does the line end? And for some people it ends way sooner than for some other people. Oh, you disagree with me? Well, you're a this political word ideology that is really, really bad. In our view, human intelligence is not primarily a consequence of our biology, but rather our technology. The fact that we've been using our technology for decades, for centuries, to learn more about the world. The most prized knowledge that we have that allows us to do things that we most associate with intelligence, whether it's medical testing or economic policy, these are things that we learned by doing large-scale experiments on people. So we predict that very soon these computational limits are not going to matter, but the thing that is going to hold AGI back is not being able to easily transcend learning this knowledge from what humans have actually learned already and creating new knowledge for itself, because that's going to require the same kind of bottlenecks that we ourselves have faced with. I kind of understand that approach. This is a little bit more positive towards AGI. I'm a little bit negative. I mean, it really depends on how you define AGI, because for me, AGI definition that would possess human level enabling to understand, learn, and apply knowledge. Yeah, that's kind of like the problem. Like understand, like this word understand, you know, which is like, yeah, we talked about like the Chinese room experiment. Like, are you really understanding if you're just following instructions? You know, you can simulate that you're understanding. You can make it look like that you're understanding, but in reality, do you really understand? You know, that's kind of like
experiments, scaling, ethics, and so forth. And we're not going to let AI do experiments on millions of us without any oversight. And so that is going to put very, very strong speed limits.
Great, that's an excellent point. I think we're running out of time, so I want to bring it to, to a topic that's actually much closer to our initiative, which is, our concerns about whether we're doing the right kind of AI. So I think David, Simon, and I, all three of us have these ideas, some based on intuition, some based on empirical facts, some based on history, that there is a more productive way in which you can develop AI, especially what we call pro-worker AI, which aims at increasing worker skills, expertise, productivity, create new tasks or capabilities to do more sophisticated tasks, and then we're worried whether we'll actually ever get there on the current path. And I guess you have sort of very nicely cataloged various mistakes that people are making in terms of banking, or at least pretending that they're banking on AI that's unlikely to work, or if it works, it's not going to be that great. AI hype. Perhaps that's leading to AI overinvestment. Perhaps it's leading to the wrong kind of AI investment. But I guess
the wrong kind of AI investment. I agree on that one. I feel like some people are just investing in the wrong kind of AI. I do kind of think that way. But like maybe it depends on the topic in question. It needs to like people like. I think investing in OpenAI is a good thing, because like OpenAI, for example, is just like they're the leading front when it comes to like mainstream AI. They've kind of like put themselves into the mainstream, and I think I don't know, the stuff that they're doing with Sora and picture generation, I think that's a little bit like, I don't know, do we really need to go there? Couldn't we just, because right now I feel like picture generation, stable diffusion, when it comes to picture generation, the open source community does a way better job than like industry standards, like MIDI Journey, for example. In my opinion, they not like their technology is really horrible. Their technology is fine. They most likely probably fork a lot from Stable Diffusion. I feel like that's the reality of it, is that like open source community is kind of like the driving force when it comes to like generative AI in pictures, and in some case videos as well. But and the other things are just like the companies are mostly just forking off of them, but maybe like developing some of their own. But like what I'm trying to say is that like MIDI Journey, for example, like it's very like their monetization system, and like their whole kind of like, I don't know, their whole kind of vibe of how they market themselves as like this product. They market themselves as this product rather than like a technology or like a tool to be used. They market themselves as like, oh yeah, you can buy this, you can afford this, you can consume this. It's like it's taking AI in the wrong direction. I don't think AI should be like this. Well, you can certainly make a product with AI or like AI implemented in it. Like, I'm not saying that. It's just like I feel like AI research when it comes to these, like, because like MIDI Journey, or like not Midjourney, but like let's say OpenAI, for example, like they are like very leading when it comes to you can just look at this chart. I've removed the chart, but you can go into like the Hugging Face AI tier list, and you can see how much like how high OpenAI is there, right? And it's just kind of like shows you that like it's important to understand. It's important to understand the limitations, not the limitations, but like what direction you want to be heading when you're developing AI, right? And like their whole like Sora thing with like pictures and stuff like that, that's pretty cool. I agree. But like, is it necessary? Like, is there that thing that you were supposed to go? Because like, bro, like when DeepSeek became like really popular, or like the most the best like non-reasoning model, like the best non-reasoning model for like 6 months ago, I think it was, at the start of 2025. It was crazy. Like their idea of like they completely improved the transformer architecture. That's the first thing. They actually improved the whole transformer architecture. I can talk about a lot about this stuff. I've actually like tried coding myself the mixture of their mixture of experts architecture, which is like the like Moe. Yeah, but yeah, the whole mixture of experts application or like yeah, architecture, fucking insane. It's actually crazy what people were can make. For me it felt very like this is revolutionary. And OpenAI for sure just yoink that because it's pretty open research, right? But like OpenAI doesn't really do open research. I mean, do they release papers? I haven't done research on if OpenAI releases papers. Actually, I don't know. I know that DeepSeek releases papers and they've released a lot of papers, but I don't know about OpenAI. I haven't really thought about that. And then there was like another very good paper about like how language models like learn and stuff like that from another. It was like a blog but looked like a research paper. It was like a research paper disguised as a blog. It was really nice. It was very easy to consume, very easy to kind of understand for like a more general audience that are not like so hardcore into the AI research. But yeah, it's interesting.
At least I didn't see it, or perhaps I missed it, that next step in the book, which is therefore the wrong types of innovation effort, R&D, etc., is being made, the wrong kind of startup energy is coming, and whether we can do anything about that, other than, of course, inform the public, inform policymakers with books and conversations like this. But is there a more sort of an agenda of that sort that would make you even more of a fellow with that?
I think there is a little bit, and I think that's exactly the critical question, and I'm so glad that you all are looking into that. I think it needs perhaps economists more than computer scientists. But what I can say from a computer science perspective is that when we look at what companies are doing, there is just right now, the market is not rewarding that. So an example of where this plays out is the use of AI by students. And we're talking about labor, but I think it's somewhat similar. So the initial uses of generative AI were primarily for cheating or other things that are maybe not the best ways to use them. We know there are good ways to use them. We know that AI, if properly configured, can be a very good tutor despite its limitations, such as hallucinations. I use AI very heavily for learning. I haven't stopped using books, but
I too I haven't stopped using books, but I do use AI for learning. It can certainly help you with like even when like you're like reading a research paper and you have questions and you kind of like, well, I wish I could talk to the researcher right now, but you can't because the researcher isn't fucking lives in America. You have to call them. You have to like accept a meeting. You could copy that sentence that or like copy that paragraph and tell AI like, okay, this is the research paper that you're reading. Like, what did he mean by this? And AI can give you like the whole fucking history of like all the research points leading up to like that paragraph. Like all the like research that has been done to like formulate that paragraph, and it's kind of insane. It feels like you're talking to the researcher almost. It almost is, and it's really insane the way you can infer knowledge, like get knowledge out of AI very, very quickly, because normally you would need to like go into the sources, click on the sources, and then like tons of articles, like tons of like papers that you have to go into the sources. Okay, this guy is sourcing another source, then he's sourcing this source, and then they're sourcing this source. That's how academic work is. It's built upon knowledge, But like that's kind of like the problem is that like a lot of academic work, when it's like very deep academic work, when it's like really hardcore academic work, it kind of like goes from the fact that all of this stuff before, so like what they're talking about, these words that like people have like been defining for like years and years, and just like kind of like being able to just like, hey, could you explain this to me? Could you explain what this means? And then you get such a like, some of the explanations are so like, whoa, kind of like, oh, this actually makes sense. This I feel like I get it now. That's like the best thing about like in my opinion AI when it comes to like understanding like research and stuff like that. But I'm not saying like it's a replacement, like, oh, don't read research articles, or oh, summarize everything, or oh, don't read books at all. No, I think it's just a tool that you can use on top of that. So on top of like Googling and all of this kind of stuff, you can sometimes use AI, maybe more, maybe less. Like, it depends on you. It depends on how you want to be. I don't think like everybody is like supposed to be like this, like, oh, use AI for everything. But like for people that use AI for everything, I don't really blame them. If they want to do that, they want to do that. The most important thing about it is just be a little bit skeptical on the things that AI produce. But that's the thing with research. You have to be a bit skeptical of like the bias, the sample size. Like, okay, what are they trying to research? Like, what are their focus? Like, it's the same kind of skepticism that comes from that needs to come into AI. Just don't blindly believe everything. And that's not even like a thing for only like research. That's a thing for like internet and everything as a whole. Just don't blindly believe in everything that you hear. Yeah,
there are some advantages of using AI. Happy to get into that in the Q&A. But it's remarkable that only, I think, a couple of weeks or maybe a month ago, that Anthropic came up with an AI tutor, which is just a simple customization of their model to be in a tutoring mode where it's not just giving out answers to the student, but rather promoting their critical thinking. Right? Yeah. And it's striking to me that took them so little work, but it took them 2.5 years or whatever of people just constantly complaining in order to do. Right? And so, yes, we can provide lots of technical ideas, but ultimately we need to either change the incentives for companies through regulation or have much more investment in other organizations, maybe NGOs, who are going to develop these AI applications with the public interest in mind instead of leaving it to the AI companies.
Thank you very much, Arvin. I think that's a great time for us to transition.
Yeah, there will be there's like a quote here. I mean,
such a wonderful talk.
Let's do one.
Just ask a quick layman questions as a user, for AI for over a year. My question is that how much you can tolerate the error they generate from AI, giving you the answer. For instance, recently I, tried to ask AI a question of a citation or quotation from a famous person. Okay, and then I get the answer, and then I post it on my blog, and I get embarrassing because I asked the professor, he said that I never say such statement. So that AI create or imagine, that person X, say something like this. I would say that, AI give you a lot of convenience, pattern recognition, and very convenient, but I would say 10% of or more, they give you some error mixed with your correct answer.
Thank you. Yes, hallucinations are a big problem with generative AI. These are fundamentally stochastic technologies. Even if we could somehow clean all the
stochastic means randomness, but it's randomness in a specific direction. So it's not like completely random, but it's still random. So stochastic, when people say stochastic, just think about it as like randomness in
training data and make sure that you only train it on true statements, the problem would remain because at generation time, it is kind of remixing the statistical patterns in its training data.
Okay, this is really important. What he said here is that like if you train the AI on true statements, you would still have a remaining hallucination because of the inherency of how it's doing the prediction. It's doing word prediction, right? And so like even all the statements in it are true, it can still hallucinate because it's morphing. It's constructing the sentence. It doesn't. It's reconstructing the sentence. It doesn't copy the sentence, right? It doesn't copy paste the same sentence. It's trying to reconstruct the sentence, and sometimes the reconstructions of that sentence can be false. What he's saying.
Hallucination rates have gone down quite a bit over the last couple of years, but they're not zero. I don't think they're going to reach zero in a very short period of time. And I have also had the experience of people emailing me to ask for my papers, and they're like, hey, where is it? I couldn't find it online. It turned out it was made up by AI and attributed to me. So what we train people to do is to identify, not just think about using AI generally in your work, but identify specific areas of your workflow. And in each of those uses of AI, you have to have an answer to why is it easier to verify the answer to this question than to have done this work myself in the first place. And if you don't have an answer to that, don't use AI. And if you do have an answer, it might save you time or enhance your creativity, as the case may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a very good, really good answer. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna.
Professor, I want to bring back again this topic of the tier.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into here. I mean, maybe one more.
The bias of the algorithms. 6 months and a year ago, Sam Altman came, and when someone asked him about the bias of the algorithms, you can say that, for example, in the criminal justice system, he said that it's easier to change the algorithm than the bias from the humans. And I said, like, okay, maybe that's compelling. To be honest, for me, it was like, okay, understandable. What do you say about that? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really think that, but yeah, this whole bias thing. I feel like when I started the next question, I shouldn't have started the next question. Now I just kind of like my mind is all into the next question. But yeah, basically what he was trying to say here is that like if you just Google the question yourself, if it's like a fact or a statement, if it's a fact that you want to know about, you can just Google if it's correct or not, and rather than actually using AI for it. Yeah, you can just double confirm it. You can generate a quote with AI, like generate me a famous quote from Aristotle, right? And then actually like put that in the search bar and see if he actually said it, you know. But like it's also like the thing is like you have to also consider yourself like, okay, well, like, do I want to generate a quote with Aristotle? I mean, so for some, like, you have to understand, like, well, what are you trying to use it for? Like, you know, if you're like posting a blog post of like a famous quote, it's very like lenient. It's not that like important as like if you're like making a dictionary, or like if you're making a book with like famous quotes from people, and then like a quote in there is just like there's just no facts about that quote being a real thing. It's just, yeah. But yeah, I think we have enough. You guys can play the rest of the questions here if you want to. I'm not gonna go that deep into it, but if you're really interested about this, check this video out. Really nice watch, really great. So yeah, this guy who just commented AI it's garbage, you're wrong, but right at the same time, but you're wrong. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.